Hey there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah, this is Brown Family Goods, and today's project is bread and butter pickles. It's garden time. Things are starting to come in slowly, a little bit more slowly than I would like probably, but I won't be saying that here soon when the tomatoes are all ready at once, right? But anyway, today I'm going to can up some bread and butter pickles. Last year I did not make bread and butter pickles, and we really have missed them. So I'm glad to get these started today. I've just been saving these as they come in from the garden. Yesterday I went out and picked about 2/3 of these at once because they were all ready at the same time. That's the way the garden gives, you know. It's either feast or famine. So it's a slow trickle. You'll have like one and one and one, and then it's like you look out there and everything's ready. So today's the day then. We're gonna jump in on the bread and butter pickles. So let's just get these in the sink. We'll get them rinsed off quickly, and then we can proceed on with making some pickles. So I'm growing all kinds of cucumbers. These are like English, maybe they're actually Persian cucumbers. I can't remember. But the other one are pickling cucumbers. Like this one, this is a pickling cucumber. It's actually a little bit larger than I would like it, but it's fine for these bread and butter pickles because it's going to be cut into slices. So any kind of cucumbers will work for this, just whatever you like to grow and that grows well for you. You do not have to peel them for this recipe. You certainly could if you wanted to, but it's definitely not necessary for a bread and butter pickle because these are going to be a cooked pickle basically. So they're not like a refrigerator pickle. They cook on the stovetop for just a few minutes, and then of course we will water bath them to can them. I'm just giving them a scrub because they do have some spiny bits on them like cucumbers do. I think you can get some varieties that are like a spineless. They don't have those little pokies on the exterior, but that's not any of this type that I'm growing. I went out there and did one final pass through my cucumbers as well. Before I started, these I had in the fridge outside waiting for me to have a free moment to can them. So I went today and did one quick pass. All of the ones that are out there are really, really small yet, so I didn't find any more today, but you got to keep checking on the cucumbers because they go just like a zucchini or something. They go from not very big to, wow, they're really huge, like so suddenly. These are probably a little bit small, but we'll see what we can do with these. This one didn't really pollinate properly, but again, this is fine for this recipe. We'll just cut off this little small one. This is called imperfect foods. Not all foods that you grow in your own garden are absolutely perfect. Some are really, really pretty, but a lot of them are not perfect. And a lot of my cucumbers are growing on the ground this year, so that's why some of these have some little marks on them. Honestly, that's probably from turkeys walking over them because the turkeys just help themselves in the garden. Okay, we got everything clean. On to the next step. The recipe that I'm going to use today is in the Ball Canning, I think it's called Ball Home Preserving Cookbook, and it's called like Grandma's Bread and Butter Pickles or something to that effect. But I don't know exactly how much cucumbers I'm going to have here, so I will determine what size recipe that I'll do once I have all the cucumbers cut and measured. So I'm actually not going to use this bowl yet. I will get out this bowl here because it has measuring cups on the side of it. So it goes up to 8 cups, and we'll see exactly how much cucumbers we have once they're sliced, because that's how you need to measure them. You need to slice them first and measure them that way. So I need a little knife to take the ends off, and I need a little garbage bowl so that I can give those ends to my birds once I cut them. So I'll just do that here. I'll take the ends off as I go. And I'm just going to, in any bad spots as well, I'm just going to cut them onto this plate and then dump them in here because the big bowls and this bowl will not fit underneath of that. So just do a few here at a time. Cut the ends. I'm excited to have a little bit more time right now to do some preserving. I actually looked in my outside freezer yesterday. I was just looking to make kind of like, what are we going to eat this week? So I always kind of check in there. Well, I don't always check in there. Sometimes I actually forget for quite a long time to look in that freezer outside. So I looked in there yesterday because I was looking to make, you know, kind of a list of things to eat this week for dinners. And guess what? There's a 5-pound bag, not 5-pound, 5-gallon bag of tomatoes from last year still in there that I never canned. Never did anything with them. So yeah, we're going to have to get on those at some point too. I have yet to find a dill pickle recipe that I actually like. They just don't taste that good to me. I've used, okay, this is the test here, if this thing's actually going to work or not. Now, that's not locked into place at all. Please be locked into place. Yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I don't know. We may end up just using the food processor because I'm not trying to fight this thing. Yeah, and it's kind of mangling them. Nope, we're not going to use this. Look at this thing. Oh, I'm glad I used a bad cucumber first. Not my favorite one. That's not going to cut it. The blade is really not sharp enough. And I can tell you why. I think I got this on like Temu or something. So no, it's a no for me. This one's going to go in the sink. We'll deal with that later. We're going to get the food processor out. Watch me struggle with the food processor for a while. Every time is like the first time. Okay. We're getting it. We're getting it. Got it. Got it. Like a pro over here. Can you see how much I use the food processor? Well, that attachment. I've never used that attachment, I don't think, for this food processor. Okie dokie. Perfect. That is actually perfect. Oh, I love it. It's way better. Okay. I love that. Oh, that's nice. Okay, cool. All right. Well, now that's going to be much easier. Okay, so I'm just going to dump these into my bowl as I go. And then I'm also going to run through 2 onions. The recipe actually calls for 4 medium onions. I am going to just use those 2 large onions because that's all I have. And for this recipe, it's going to be okay. I'm using less onion than the recipe calls for rather than more onions. So it'll still be safe and all of that. So I just want to make sure, I want to see if I'm measuring the onions and cucumbers together or separately. And I think separately. Yeah, 10 cups of cucumbers and then however many onions. Okay, let me just cut these so that I can get them through here. So my son usually gives me a call about this time of day every single day when he's on his lunch break. This day was no exception. So I just was chatting with him while I was working away here on getting the cucumbers and onions into this bowl. That way you can salt them and then you fill it up with water as well. So it sits in this solution for, it says up to 2 hours. I ended up taking about an hour for mine to sit there because I was ready to keep going on making these and not lose too much time in the day. But this is such a simple process and any type of cucumbers will work for this. So if they're a little bit big, they're actually probably a good candidate for this. Maybe they wouldn't be your favorite for fresh eating if they're a little bit oversized, but they work excellent in this since it is a hot pack recipe. Now, I'll tell you that ultimately they are crisp
when you go to eat them, they still have some crisp left because number one, you don't boil them away for hours or anything. You only boil them for about a minute once you get everything up to a boil, and then you hot pack them into jars and can them. Also, the pickle crisp actually did help in this recipe, I would say. Last year, I don't think I used it, or the last time I made them, I don't think I used pickle crisp. I did notice a difference in these. They are much more crisp than the last version that I made. So I would say use the pickle crisp. It's only 1/8 of a teaspoon in each jar, and the jar of pickle crisp itself will last you forever. So while I'm waiting on my cucumbers to sit in the brine or solution or whatever you want to call it, I just go ahead and get the other things ready. I got the vinegar and sugar and the spices that go into these. Pretty classic mix for pickling as far as mustard seeds and turmeric and celery seed.
It is time to drain these now, and I was able to do a couple things while I was waiting on these cucumbers. So you let these sit in the brine, basically. I guess this was what you would maybe call, it's not a brine. It's not a brine. It's just water and salt. It's out some of the juice, and then we're going to drain that juice away. So these have been in here for about an hour. It says you can go longer. It says a couple hours. I'm not going to go longer because I want to get these done. So I am going to go ahead and drain mine, start to drain mine. So I have this colander here, and I also have one more colander. Well, I have several more colanders, let's be honest. But I have another one that I'll use because this one alone is probably not quite big enough. So I'm just going to start. You want to drain these, and you want to also rinse them off so that you get most of that salty solution off of there. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start pulling these out by the handful, and I'm going to leave my sink on running over these that entire time too. Nice cold water, as cold as you've got, and we'll just let these start to drain and rinse. Now, so those can just sit in the sink or on the sink until we're ready for them. I'm waiting on my vinegar and sugar and the seasoning to come up to a boil. And once that starts to boil, then we can add in the veggies. So we'll cook this until we make sure that all of the sugar has melted and incorporated and everything. And then it'll be time to add in the pickles or the cucumbers and make pickles. So the last time I made these, I couldn't remember if I did white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, but I just tasted this and this tastes right. So I must have used the white vinegar. The recipe in the book says that you can use either. They call it like a different version. There's versions typically on the ball canning book, and you can, follow these steps for this one, this version, or add horseradish to make a zesty version or that type of thing. So this is the actual original version. And what I ended up with was about 4.5 cups of white vinegar, some sugar. I think it was about 3 cups. I wrote my recipe down separately since it was 1.5 times the original recipe. And then into there also goes mustard seeds, celery seed, and some turmeric. And that is all that goes into this mixture. You don't need to add salt or any other flavorings in here. So this has melted and it has started to come to a bubble. And now we're going to add in the actual pickles and onions and bring them up to a boil. So you need a good sized pot for this. This is the biggest one that I have without being I'm going to move this closer to me while we do this, and then I'll put it back on the heat. I have my canner starting to warm up here because these pickles or these cucumbers don't cook very long in the brine. You just want to make sure that you get it all hot together and start to come back to a bubble before you put it into the jars. Now I still have to get my jars out and get them ready too because I did not do that while I was in the interim, but we'll get those going here in just a second. Okay, but this pot looks like it's going to be plenty big for this amount that I have here. Now I probably would not do much more. However, once you start to heat the cucumbers up, they're going to cook down just a little bit. Okay. Now, okay, back onto the heat. I'm using this back burner back here just because it's available. Okay. Well, these look so good already. And just get everything submerged under the brine. and we'll let this start to heat through. Look at how many jars I have. And this is after getting rid of a ton of jars. Recently, I got rid of any jars that I had that were anything that had like sticky left on the outside or prior labels or anything like that, because I had been keeping things like that for a long time, thinking I'm going to clean those. I'm going to get those fixed up and taken care of. That way I can use them. No, I never did. So recently I put them all on Facebook Marketplace. I sold them for about $10. I think it was about 60 jars, but it was all like leftover used jars, but they had standard mouths like this, you know, like if you buy like Mateo's salsa or something, it'll come in a standard size canning jar, so you can reuse it. But I just did not want to go through all of the trouble of cleaning off all those labels and all that stuff, so I just got rid of them. Okay, let me get out some jars. I'm probably going to get out about 10 jars. I don't think I'm going to need that at all. Okay, this is all the standard size lids, and then I have some wide mouth lids too, but I try to keep them all in one place. Every now and then they start to migrate into the kitchen as I use jars and take the rings and all that stuff off, but I always try to bring them back. In fact, I just brought a bunch in here yesterday. Okay, so we got most everything ready. I'm just waiting on my cucumbers and onions to come to a boil here. This looks so good already, and it's going to be so delicious. I'm so excited about this. I love bread and butter pickles. My mother always loved bread and butter pickles, and I thought they were the most disgusting thing growing up. Never liked bread and butter pickles until I made my own one year, and I was like, wait a minute. She might have been onto something with that, because those are delicious. But I thought they were awful growing up. I could not understand people eating sweet pickles at all. At all. I did not even like sweet pickles one bit. So another couple things I brought in here with me is pickle crisp. I'm going to put this in the jars. I've never really found it to do much for anything. Obviously, these are cooked, but it can hopefully help them keep a little bit more crisp than not. So it's only 1/8 teaspoon into each jar when you get started putting your things into the jars. So we'll do that then, because I don't know exactly how many jars I'm going to be able to do with this amount. So I'm just going to line up my clean jars here. I find that it's a lot easier if you get everything kind of centrally located here. I think we're going to get some thunder. Or maybe that's my neighbor's lawn people. Every time it's about to rain, her lawn people show up. It's the most interesting thing. And half the time they're mowing in the rain. They never come on a clear day to her house. They always come when it's about to pour. Okay, but these are getting close here. Anyway, what I was saying is it's best if you have every single component ready to go. Now, I don't heat my jar lids up. I just have never found that needed to be a thing. You can. If you want to put them in a pan of simmering water and take them out and all that, you can. This is all hot pack stuff, so you will not have any trouble with this sealing. Another thing that I have here is my canner. It's about full to about here with water, and I have it sort of preheating. I have it on like just a low setting on like 2 out of 10 on my range here, or on my stovetop here. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it up a hair since we're getting close to the pickles being done and jarring them up and everything. I'll go ahead and start to turn the heat up here. Now, I don't really want it to come to a boil before I'm ready to put the jars in, but it can start to get pretty close to a boil at this point. Okay, so let me take some rings off, and we will have those ready as well. Are these gold? So I'm gonna hope to get all, well, I guess it really doesn't matter because I'm gonna take them off eventually anyway. Now, what I am looking for on rings, I always do new lids. So this is a brand new box. I just buy the ones from Walmart. I've never had any issue with them, but you can reuse rings quite a bit as long as they don't have dents in them, and they get dented pretty easily actually. So just go ahead and inspect those before you go to use them, and take out only the ones that don't have any dents on them. If it has a dent in it, it can put uneven pressure on the edge of the lid and cause it not to seal. or things to come out when you're boiling them. So you really don't want that. And it's very easy to avoid if you just inspect your lids and your rings before you start to can something. So I'm just going to take out like, several that are good, and I won't have any issue with them. Now I do save some if they have a dent in them. I don't mind keeping them because occasionally I do use my jars and lids for just dry storage of things. So sometimes it's fine to have those around. All right, I can hear my pickles starting to come to a boil here. So they're just about done. I'm just going to let them boil for about a minute, and then they'll be ready to put into the jars. Okay, we are at a boil here. I'm going to go ahead, I can turn this off. I'm just going to pull it off the heat here. And I really wish I had some tongs. Oh, I do. I do have some tongs. Oh, you know what I forgot to get out was a canning funnel. We definitely want one of those. There it is. 1/2 inch of headspace. So what I'm going to do first is put the vegetables without the juice, basically, without very much of the juice, into the jars. Then we'll know how many jars we can fill here. So I'm going to get my pickle crisp open, get my tiny measuring spoon out. I'm going to do 4 jars. I'll just do these first 4, and we'll see how far we get. Pickle crisp goes in. Then we'll put the vegetables in, and then we will ladle juice over them until we get 1/2 inch of headspace with the juice. So I use tongs for the vegetables first. The original recipe said that it made about 5 jars. So we'll see how much my 1.5 times recipe makes. Always interesting to see. Usually the ball canning book is pretty dead on with their amounts. So let's see.
I just start with tongs, and that is so that I can get all the veggies out of the liquid. Pack the veggies into the jars. Now don't pack them too hard because you want it to be able to fill with brine around the vegetables, but I just kind of push them down gently. That way I can get as much into each jar as possible without having, only liquid in there. So fill the jars, and I ended up with I think I ended up with 7 jars with this. So just about right from the ball canning recipe. After I fill the jars with all the vegetables up there, I go back with a ladle and the funnel again and just add the liquid up until where I think it should be. Next up, grab out a chopstick or something that you can poke down in there. You could use a butter knife even. Something that you can push down the sides and get the air bubbles out, because many times you'll notice that after you push down and get some of those air bubbles out, you need to add a little bit more liquid so that you can get on up to a 1/2 inch of headspace there. You don't want much more headspace than that because it could be unsafe. You don't want to leave too much air inside the jar. That could cause problems down the line. So then you just pop them into the canner, and there they go.
Okay, y'all, we made it to the last step of the process. I'm going to double over a kitchen towel, and it's time to take these out of the pot. So remember, when you go to water bath can these, that you don't start the timer until the actual rolling boil comes up. So they may take 10 minutes or so to get up to a good boil, but then you'll start your timer 15 minutes for these, and then let it boil for 15 minutes, and then turn off the heat. And if you can move it over so it's not on the hot burner anymore. Just let the temperature come down some before you actually remove them from the water like I'm doing now. And that is just to keep, because the room air is like at what, 68, 70 degrees or whatever it is in your kitchen. And the hot pot is at whatever temperature it is, 200 degrees. So that can be quite a dramatic change. And you could maybe have something break when you pull it out straight into the cold room air. So just to be precautious, you just let the temperature come down a little bit in the pot so that it's not straight from rolling boil out onto the counter. And hopefully you prevent any type of problems that you may have there. So these should start popping and sealing here pretty soon, within a few minutes. And then they need to sit on the counter until they're completely cooled down. Hopefully I left myself enough room here. Yeah, I did. So they'll sit on the counter here until they're completely cooled down. Sometime later this evening, I'll put them away. And at that point, I will remove the rings because the jar lids, assuming they all seal, should have sealed by then. You'll hear them start to seal, and then you'll be able to visually tell that they have sealed too, because you will see a little divot in the middle there. If you can't tell, you can always go through and kind of tap, and you'll hear a definite difference in the two types of noises. If you don't have one that's sealed, it'll sound kind of hollow because it won't be sealed. But the other ones will sound more like a ting, ting, ting when you tap on them. So that is the technical way to tell if they've sealed. You really should be able to tell without having to do all of that. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today as we did some canning. I am so excited to be back in the kitchen. I always love a project, you know, just something that you can do and get done, and then it's done. You know, you feel like a little sense of accomplishment just from something like this. I'm very excited to eat these at some point. Probably I'll give them, you know, at least a week or so before we start to dive into them. Flavor will get a little bit better as they sit. So yeah, just give them a little while if you can resist. I really appreciate you being here. Hey, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I made it recently to 4,000 subscribers, so I'm very excited for that. I know it's not a huge number in the grand scheme of things, but just to think that 4,000 people have liked my channel enough to say, yes, I'll stick around and I want to see what else you're doing, that really means a lot to me. Definitely give the video a thumbs up if you've made it this far, especially. We're all the way at the end here. So also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done that. And I will see you back here again real soon.